Jake Morrison stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Fleet ship Valiant, staring at the silent communications panel. For 3 weeks, he had tried to contact the human colony on New Haven. Every day, he sent messages into the empty space where 12,000 people once lived and worked. Every day, silence answered back. The mining colony had been humanity's greatest success story. 15 years ago, brave families had traveled to the distant planet Kepler 442c to build a new home among the stars. They found rich deposits of rare metals that Earth needed for building spaceships. More importantly, they proved that humans could survive and grow on worlds far from home. Jake remembered visiting New Haven 2 years earlier. Children played in the streets while their parents worked in the mines and factories. The colony administrator, Lisa Carter, had shown him around with pride. She spoke about plans to expand the settlement and bring more families to their new world. Now Lisa was gone. Everyone was gone. The last message from New Haven had come on a Tuesday morning 3 weeks ago. Jake had been drinking coffee in his quarters when the emergency signal reached his ship. Lisa's voice had crackled through, the speakers full of fear and confusion. "Multiple unknown vessels approaching our system," she had said. "They're huge, bigger than anything we've ever seen. We're trying to contact them, but they won't answer our calls." The transmission had become harder to hear as interference grew stronger. Jake could hear alarms blaring in the background and people shouting orders. "Jake, if you're receiving this," Lisa had continued, her voice breaking, "tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we tried to make peace. Tell them we never wanted to fight anyone." Then the signal had died completely. Jake had immediately ordered his ship to travel to New Haven at maximum speed. The journey took 2 weeks, even with the fastest engines Earth had built. During those long days, he hoped that maybe the colonists had just lost their communication equipment. Maybe they were all safe, waiting for help to arrive. Dr. Amanda Brooks worked beside him during the journey. She was Earth's best scientist for studying alien life forms. Her job was to figure out what kind of creatures had visited New Haven and what they might want from humanity. Commander Ryan Palmer prepared the ship's weapons and defenses. He was a tough soldier who had fought in many battles to protect human colonies from space pirates and dangerous animals on distant worlds. If there was going to be trouble, Ryan would be ready for it. When the Valiant finally reached the New Haven system, Jake's heart sank. The planet looked wrong from space. Instead of the green and brown colors of a living world, Kepler 442c glowed with strange silver light. "Take us down to the colony site," Jake ordered his pilot. As they flew through the atmosphere, the truth became clear. Where the town of New Haven once stood, there was now only empty ground covered in strange, glittering dust. The buildings were gone. The machines were gone. The people were gone. Jake landed the ship and put on his protective suit. He walked across the ground where thousands of people had once lived and worked. Under his feet, the silver dust crunched, like broken glass. Dr. Brooks knelt down and collected samples of the dust in special containers. She ran tests with her portable equipment while Jake and Ryan searched for any sign of what had happened. "This is impossible," Amanda said, looking at her test results. "This dust, it used to be people." Jake felt sick. "What do you mean?" "Someone used a weapon that broke apart everything here at the molecular level. Every person, every building, every machine was turned into this crystalline dust. It's like they were dissolved and then reformed into these tiny crystals." Ryan found pieces of strange metal scattered around the colony site. The metal had a weird purple shine and felt warm, to the touch even in the cold air. When Amanda examined it, she became very excited. "I know what this is," she said. "These are fragments from Zephyrian technology." Jake had heard of the Zephyrians but had never seen one. They were an ancient alien race that controlled a large part of the galaxy. Most other species feared them because they treated all other life forms as either useful resources or annoying pests to be eliminated. "Why would they attack us?" Jake asked. "We never did anything to them." "They don't need a reason," Amanda replied. "From what we know about their culture, they probably saw our colony as an invasion of space they claimed for themselves. To them, killing 12,000 humans would be like stepping on insects." The 3 humans spent 2 more days searching the dead world. They found no survivors and no bodies. Everyone who had lived in New Haven had been turned into the strange, silver dust that now covered the ground. Jake collected recordings from the colony's automated systems. The cameras had captured the attack in terrible detail. Massive alien ships had appeared in the sky without warning. They had fired beams of purple energy that dissolved everything they touched. The entire attack had lasted less than an hour. As the Valiant prepared to leave New Haven, Jake stood one last time in what had been the colony's central square. He tried to imagine the children playing there just 3 weeks ago. He thought about Lisa Carter and how proud she had been of what her people had built. "We're going home," he told Ryan and Amanda. "Earth needs to know what happened here." During the 2-week journey back to Earth, Jake wrote his report. He described the total destruction of the colony and the evidence that pointed to the Zephyrians as the attackers. He included Amanda's scientific analysis and Ryan's assessment of the alien weapons. More importantly, he tried to capture the human cost of what had happened. 12,000 people had died for no reason other than existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. Families had been destroyed. Children had never gotten the chance to grow up. Dreams of building a better future among the stars had been turned to dust. When Earth finally appeared on the Valiant's viewscreen, Jake felt a mixture of relief and dread. He was happy to be home, but he knew that his report would change everything. Humanity had just learned that they were not alone in the galaxy, and their neighbors were not friendly. The age of human innocence among the stars was over. President Catherine Walsh sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the White House. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth, all of them trying to process the horrible news that Jake Morrison had brought back from New Haven. Admiral Peter Grant, the head of Earth's military forces, played the recordings from the dead colony for the 3rd time. The images of purple energy beams dissolving entire buildings made everyone in the room feel sick and angry. 12,000 people, said Senator John Mitchell, his voice quiet with shock. Men, women, children, all dead in less than an hour. General Linda Hayes leaned forward in her chair. She had been warning the government for years that Earth needed better weapons to defend against advanced alien races. Most politicians had ignored her warnings, thinking that space was big enough for everyone to get along peacefully. "We can't let this stand," Linda said firmly. "If we do nothing, every alien species in the galaxy will see us as easy targets. More colonies will be attacked. Eventually, they'll come for Earth itself." Dr. Stephen Cole, the head of Earth's science programs, looked worried. "The Zephyrians have technology that's thousands of years ahead of ours. Their weapons can dissolve matter at the molecular level. How are we supposed to fight something like that?" President Walsh had been listening quietly to the discussion. She was a calm woman who always thought carefully before making important decisions, but the images from New Haven had filled her with a cold anger that surprised even her. "Tell me about Project Prometheus," she said to Linda. The general smiled grimly. Project Prometheus was her secret weapons program, hidden from most of the government and all of the public. For 5 years, her best scientists and engineers had been developing new technologies that could defend Earth against any threat. "We've been working on weapons that use the same physical forces that power stars," Linda explained. "Instead of building bigger guns or faster missiles, we've learned how to manipulate gravity and electromagnetic fields on a massive scale." Stephen looked interested despite his worry. "What kind of weapons are you talking about?" "The kind that can destroy entire star systems," Linda said quietly. The room fell silent. Even Admiral Grant, who had known about some of Linda's research, looked shocked. Representative Karen Lewis was the first to speak. "You're talking about genocide, wiping out entire planets full of people." "The Zephyrians just committed genocide against us," Linda replied. "They killed 12,000 humans because they considered us pests. How many more will die if we show them that humans are weak and won't fight back?" Senator Mitchell shook his head. "There has to be another way. Diplomacy, economic pressure, working with other alien species to isolate the Zephyrians." "Diplomacy?" Admiral Grant laughed bitterly. "Jake Morrison's report says the Zephyrians didn't even try to communicate with New Haven before they attacked. They just showed up and started killing. What makes you think they'll listen to diplomatic messages from Earth? President Walsh raised her hand for silence. She had made her decision, but she wanted everyone to understand the reasons behind it. I've read every report about alien civilizations that our scouts have brought back, she said. The galaxy operates on simple rules. Strong species survive and weak species get enslaved or destroyed. The Zephyrians attacked us because they thought we were weak. She stood up and walked to the large screen showing images of New Haven's destruction. If we respond with conventional weapons, we'll lose. Our ships are slower. Our guns are weaker. And we don't have enough soldiers to fight a war across multiple star systems. The only way to win is to show them that attacking humans comes with a price so terrible that no one will ever try it again. Stephen Cole raised his hand nervously. Madam President, the weapons Linda is talking about. I've been working on similar technology for peaceful purposes. Stellar engineering, we call it. The ability to manipulate stars to create energy or terraform planets. How quickly could you turn that technology into a weapon? She asked. The basic principles are the same, Stephen admitted. Instead of stabilizing a star's fusion process, we could destabilize it, cause it to go supernova in a matter of hours instead of millions of years. The implications hit everyone at the same time. A supernova would destroy everything in a star system, planets, moons, space stations, and every living thing for dozens of light years around. That's not just a weapon, Senator Mitchell said, his face pale. That's a way to delete entire civilizations from existence. President Walsh nodded slowly. Yes, it is. And that's exactly what we're going to do to the Zephyrians. She turned to face the group. I'm authorizing the immediate implementation of Project Prometheus. General Hayes, you have unlimited resources and complete authority to develop this stellar weapon. Dr. Cole, you'll work with her to adapt your research for military purposes. What about the rest of the galaxy? Representative Lewis asked. Other alien species will see what we do. They'll fear us. Good, the president replied. Fear will keep them from attacking our colonies. Fear will make them think twice before treating human lives as disposable. Admiral Grant stood up. What are your orders for the fleet? Move our best ships to the edge of Zephyrian space, President Walsh commanded. I want them in position when our weapon is ready. We're going to give the Zephyrians one chance to surrender the people responsible for New Haven's destruction. If they refuse, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room understood what would happen next. Over the following days, the secret weapon development moved faster than anyone had thought possible. Linda Hayes brought her best engineers out of hiding. Stephen Cole opened his most classified research files. Factory workers across Earth began building components for a device that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The public knew something important was happening, but they didn't know what. News reports talked about increased military activity and emergency meetings of world leaders. Most people assumed the government was planning some kind of rescue mission to find survivors from New Haven. Only a small group of people knew the truth. Earth wasn't planning a rescue mission. Earth was planning to teach the galaxy a lesson that would be remembered for thousands of years. The weapon that would destroy a star was almost ready. Deep in space near Saturn, Dr. Stephen Cole worked day and night inside the most secret research station humanity had ever built. The facility was hidden among Saturn's rings, disguised to look like just another piece of space debris. Inside its metal walls, Stephen and his team were building a weapon that could kill stars. The device they created looked nothing like the guns and missiles most people thought of as weapons. Instead, it resembled a massive radio telescope, with dozens of curved metal dishes pointing in the same direction. But instead of receiving signals from distant stars, this machine would send out waves of pure gravitational force. Chief Engineer Alex Turner had redesigned the targeting systems 3 times to make them more accurate. The weapon had to hit a star's core with perfect precision, miss by even a small amount, and the attack would fail completely. How does it work exactly? Asked Dr. Rachel Price, the mathematician who had calculated how to make stars explode on command. Stephen pointed to the diagrams covering the walls of their workshop. Every star is held together by a careful balance between gravity pulling inward and nuclear fusion pushing outward. If we can disrupt that balance just enough, the star will collapse in on itself and then explode outward in a supernova. But stars are incredibly stable, Rachel said. They've been burning for millions or billions of years. How can we change that in just a few hours? By sending precisely tuned gravitational waves directly into the star's core, Alex explained. It's like hitting a wine glass with exactly the right musical note. Hit it at the wrong frequency, and nothing happens. Hit it at exactly the right frequency, and the glass shatters. The mathematics involved were so complex that even Rachel, one of Earth's smartest scientists, had trouble understanding all of it. The weapon would send out waves of gravitational force that traveled faster than light through subspace. When those waves reached the target star, they would cause tiny changes in how gravity worked at the star's center. Those tiny changes would grow larger and larger, like ripples in a pond. Within hours, the star's core would become unstable. The nuclear fusion that had burned steadily for eons would suddenly go out of control. The star would collapse and then explode with the force of billions of nuclear bombs going off at the same time. While Stephen's team built their star-killing weapon, Admiral Peter Grant prepared the largest military operation in human history. Ships from every nation on Earth came together to form a single, massive fleet. The newest and most powerful warships, the EDF Retribution, the EDF Vengeance, and the EDF Justice, would lead the attack. Jake Morrison had been promoted to admiral after his discovery at New Haven. Now he commanded the fleet that would carry humanity's revenge to the Zephyrian home system. He spent hours studying star charts and battle plans, preparing for a war unlike anything humans had ever fought before. Commander Ryan Palmer led teams of soldiers and spies whose job was to gather information about Zephyrian defenses. They launched tiny, invisible scout ships that could sneak into enemy territory without being detected. What they found was both encouraging and terrifying. The Zephyrian Collective controlled the Arcturus 7 star system, where their homeworld orbited a massive, blue giant star. The system contained 18 planets, with 17 of them supporting Zephyrian cities and military bases. Intelligence reports suggested that over 3 billion Zephyrians lived in the system. They're not expecting an attack, Ryan reported to Jake during one of their planning meetings. Their defenses are designed to keep other aliens out of their territory, but they're not prepared for the kind of weapon we're bringing. Jake nodded, but he felt uncomfortable about what they were planning to do. 3 billion people, Ryan. That's almost half of Earth's entire population. They killed 12,000 of our people without warning, Ryan replied coldly. They did it because they thought we were weak and wouldn't fight back. Maybe they're right about us being weak. Maybe we don't have the stomach for what needs to be done. I didn't say we shouldn't do it, Jake said quickly. I just want to make sure we understand what we're becoming. Dr. Amanda Brooke struggled with the same moral questions. She had spent her career studying alien life forms, hoping to find ways for different species to understand and cooperate with each other. Now she was helping to plan the complete destruction of an entire alien civilization. Is there really no other way? She asked Stephen during one of her visits to the weapon facility. Stephen looked tired. He had been working 18-hour days for weeks, pushing himself and his team to complete the weapon as quickly as possible. The Zephyrians see us as insects, he said. You don't negotiate with insects. You don't make peace treaties with insects. You just step on them when they annoy you. So we become like them? Amanda asked. No, Stephen replied. We become something they can't ignore, something they have to respect. As the weapon neared completion, President Walsh received detailed intelligence reports about Zephyrian society and culture. What she learned made her even more determined to go through with the attack. The Zephyrians had been destroying other civilizations for thousands of years. They had wiped out dozens of intelligent species, always for the same reason. Those species had dared to exist in space that the Zephyrians wanted for themselves. New Haven was just the latest in a long line of genocides that the Zephyrians had committed across the galaxy. They're not going to stop with us, General Linda Hayes told the president during one of their final planning meetings. If we show weakness now, they'll keep attacking human colonies until we're extinct. This isn't just about revenge for New Haven. This is about the survival of our entire species. The weapon was finally ready on a cold morning in December, Stephen Cole ran the final tests while Alex Turner checked and rechecked every system. Rachel, Price verified her calculations one last time. Everything was working perfectly. The gravitational wave generator could reach across hundreds of light years and hit a target the size of a star's core with perfect accuracy. The power source, a controlled black hole created in Earth's most advanced physics laboratories, provided enough energy to tear apart the fundamental forces that held matter together. Admiral Jake Morrison received his final orders from President Walsh. The human fleet would position itself at the edge of the Arcturus 7 system, far enough away to be safe from the supernova, but close enough to observe the destruction of the Zephyrian homeworld. Remember, the President told him, we're not just destroying their military, we're sending a message to every species in the galaxy. The message is simple: don't mess with humanity. Jake saluted and prepared to leave for what would become the EU's most important battle in human history. Behind him, the star-killing weapon powered up for the first time, its gravitational fields reaching out toward a distant blue star where 3 billion Zephyrians lived their lives, unaware that their entire civilization was about to end. President Catherine Walsh stood in the communications center beneath the White House, preparing to send a message that would echo across the galaxy. Behind her, technicians worked at control panels that could broadcast on every frequency known to science. Her words would reach every Zephyrian in their home system and beyond. Admiral Jake Morrison stood beside her, his uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's combined fleet. He had traveled from the edge of Zephyrian space to be present for this moment. His ships waited in the darkness between stars, ready to observe what would happen next. General Linda Hayes watched from the weapons control center near Saturn. Her finger hovered over the activation switch for humanity's star-killing weapon. Dr. Stephen Cole stood beside her, making final adjustments to the targeting system. In a few hours, they would either make history or become history. Are we ready? President Walsh asked her communications officer. All frequencies are clear, Madam President. Every Zephyrian listening device in their territory will receive this transmission. Walsh nodded and stepped up to the microphone. She had practiced this speech dozens of times, but now that the moment had arrived, her heart was beating fast. What she said in the next few minutes would determine whether humanity became a respected member of galactic civilization or just another extinct species. To the leaders and people of the Zephyrian collective, she began, her voice calm and steady. I am Catherine Walsh, President of the United Earth Government and official representative of the human species. The transmission raced across space at faster-than-light speeds, carried by the same subspace technology that would soon deliver a very different kind of message to the Zephyrian star system. 3 weeks ago, your military forces attacked and destroyed our colony world of New Haven. 12,000 innocent human beings were killed in this unprovoked assault. Men, women, and children who had never harmed anyone were dissolved into dust by your weapons. Walsh paused for a moment, thinking about the families who had died on that distant world. Lisa Carter, and her dreams of building a better future among the stars. The children who would never grow up. The miners who had worked so hard to make their new world prosper. We know you did this because you consider humans to be inferior beings, unworthy of sharing the galaxy with your ancient civilization. You attacked us because you believed we were weak, that our compassion made us vulnerable, that our youth as a spacefaring species made us easy prey. Admiral Morrison stepped forward to continue the message. His voice carried the authority of someone who had seen the aftermath of Zephyrian cruelty with his own eyes. You were wrong about us. Humans are not weak. We do not surrender when attacked. We do not forget when our people are murdered. We do not forgive genocide. The transmission was being recorded by intelligence stations throughout Zephyrian space. Military commanders and government officials were already analyzing the human message, trying to understand what these strange aliens wanted from their superior civilization. We offer you this single opportunity to avoid the consequences of your actions, Morrison continued. Surrender to us the individuals responsible for ordering and carrying out the New Haven massacre. Provide reparations to compensate the families of our dead. Acknowledge that human colonies have the right to exist in peace. President Walsh returned to the microphone for the final part of their ultimatum. You have 24 hours to respond to these demands. If you refuse, if you ignore this message, if you continue to believe that human lives are worthless, then you will discover exactly what we are capable of when properly motivated. The transmission ended, leaving only static in the subspace channels. Now there was nothing to do but wait for the Zephyrian response. The answer came much sooner than anyone expected. Within 6 hours, a reply transmission reached Earth's listening stations. The message was addressed to President Walsh personally, which suggested that the Zephyrians had taken the human ultimatum seriously enough to research Earth's government structure. The speaker identified himself as Supreme Overlord Kethvar, the absolute ruler of the Zephyrian collective. His voice had a strange musical quality that came from vocal cords evolved for breathing a different kind of atmosphere than Earth's. "Primitive mammals of the third planet orbiting Sol," he began, with obvious contempt. "Your pathetic attempts at intimidation are as meaningless as the buzzing of insects. The Zephyrian collective has ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years. We have exterminated hundreds of species more advanced than your own." President Walsh felt her anger growing as she listened to the alien's arrogant words. "The vermin you call colonists were trespassing in space that belongs to us by right of conquest," Kethvar continued. "Their elimination was a minor cleaning operation, no different from removing parasites from our territory. We will not negotiate with insects. We will not pay compensation to insects. We will not acknowledge the rights of insects." The transmission grew more threatening. "Since you have dared to make demands of your superiors, we will demonstrate the consequences of such impertinence. Additional human settlements will be harvested for resources. Your pathetic homeworld will eventually share the fate of your new haven colony. This is inevitable. This is the natural order." The message ended with what sounded like laughter, a high-pitched trilling that made everyone who heard it feel uncomfortable and angry. President Walsh turned to General Hayes, who was watching from the weapons facility through a secure video link. "General, you have authorization to proceed with Project Prometheus." Linda Hayes nodded grimly. She had hoped that the Zephyrians might show some wisdom and accept the human demands. Their refusal meant that humanity would have to teach the galaxy a lesson using methods that would haunt everyone involved for the rest of their lives. "Dr. Cole," she said, "please input the final targeting coordinates." Stephen Cole's hands shook slightly as he entered the location of the Arcturus 7 system into the weapons guidance computer. He had built this device to protect humanity, but he still felt sick about what they were about to do with it. "Gravitational wave generators are at full power," reported Alex Turner. "All targeting systems are locked on the primary star's core." Rachel Price checked her calculations one final time. The mathematics had to be perfect. Too little force and the star would remain stable. Too much force and the supernova might be larger than expected, potentially threatening other star systems. "Firing solution is confirmed," she announced. "Estimated time to stellar collapse is 4 hours and 17 minutes after weapon activation." General Hayes looked around the control room at all the scientists and technicians who had made this moment possible. They were about to make humanity the most feared species in the galaxy. "For New Haven," she said quietly, and pressed the activation button. The Starkiller weapon hummed to life, its gravitational field generators creating waves of force that would travel across hundreds of light years in minutes. The blue giant star of Arcturus 7 continued to shine peacefully, unaware that its death warrant had just been signed. Admiral Morrison, watching from his flagship at the edge of the Zephyrian system, began counting down the hours until an entire civilization would cease to exist. He thought about the 12,000 humans who had died on New Haven, and wondered if their deaths would be avenged by the deaths of 3 billion aliens. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone made the mistake of underestimating humanity. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the most terrible and beautiful sight he would ever witness. Through the reinforced windows of the EDF Retribution, he could see the blue giant star of Arcturus 7 beginning to die. The gravitational waves from Earth's weapon had reached their target exactly on schedule. Dr. Rachel Price's calculations had been perfect. The star's core, which had burned steadily for millions of years, was now becoming unstable in ways that violated everything the Zephyrians thought they knew about physics. Stellar collapse beginning now, reported the ship's science officer. Core temperature is rising beyond normal fusion parameters. Jake activated the ship's communication system to address the entire human fleet. All ships, prepare for supernova event. Shields at maximum power. Record everything for transmission back to Earth. The process was faster than anyone had expected. Within 2 hours of the gravitational waves reaching the star, its blue light began to flicker and change color. The massive ball of nuclear fire that had warmed Zephyrian worlds for eons was turning red, then white, then colors that had no names. Commander Ryan Palmer, monitoring Zephyrian communications from his intelligence station, reported increasing panic in their transmissions. They know something is wrong with their star, but they don't understand what's happening. Their scientists are saying it's impossible. They're about to learn that humans have a different definition of impossible, Jake replied grimly. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Supreme Overlord Kethvar was holding emergency meetings with his military, commanders, and chief scientists. The primitive mammals from the Sol system had threatened his people, but no species in the galaxy possessed weapons capable of harming a star. The strange behavior of Arcturus 7 had to be some kind of natural phenomenon. His head scientist, an elderly Zephyrian named Vextar, disagreed with this assessment. The gravitational readings are unlike anything in our databases, he reported. Someone is manipulating the star's core using technology we don't understand. Impossible, Kethvar declared. We are the masters of this galaxy. Our science is supreme. No other species could create weapons beyond our comprehension. Then explain how the star is collapsing, Vextar replied. This is not a natural event. Someone is killing our sun. As if to emphasize his point, the lights in the room flickered as seismic disturbances from the dying star began to affect the planet's gravity field. Kethvar finally began to understand the magnitude of what was happening. How long do we have? Perhaps 2 hours before the supernova, Vextar said quietly. The explosion will sterilize every planet in this system. There is no escape. For the first time in his long life, the Supreme Overlord of the Zephyrian Collective felt fear. Back on Earth, President Catherine Walsh watched the events unfold through live transmissions from the fleet. Dr. Stephen Cole sat beside her, monitoring the weapon's performance from his control station near Saturn. The stellar collapse is proceeding exactly as predicted, Stephen reported. In approximately 90 minutes, the star will reach critical mass and explode. Are you having second thoughts? The president asked him. Stephen considered the question carefully. 3 billion people are about to die because of a weapon I built. Of course I'm having second thoughts, but then I remember Lisa Carter and the 12,000 people who died on New Haven, and I remember why we're doing this. General Linda Hayes joined the conversation from her command center. Zephyrian military forces throughout the galaxy are receiving reports about what's happening to their home system. Some of their fleets are already heading back to Arcturus 7, but they won't arrive in time to help. Good, President Walsh said coldly. Let them see what we did to their homeworld. Let them carry the story to every other species in the galaxy. The final hour before the supernova was the longest in human history. Everyone involved in the operation watched as the blue giant star continued to collapse. Its light grew brighter and brighter as more mass compressed into its unstable core. Admiral Morrison ordered his ships to move to a safer distance as the star's death throes began to affect local space. Gravitational anomalies caused his instruments to malfunction, and strange particles began streaming out from the dying sun. All Zephyrian communications have ceased, Ryan Palmer reported. I think they've given up trying to evacuate their planets. Jake nodded sadly. Even though the Zephyrians had murdered 12,000 humans without mercy, he felt no satisfaction in watching an entire civilization die. This wasn't justice. It was demonstration of power on a scale that made traditional warfare meaningless. Star exploded at exactly 1643 Earth Standard Time. The supernova was visible from Earth with the naked eye, appearing as a new star in the constellation where Arcturus 7 had once shone. The explosion released more energy in seconds than Earth's sun would produce in its entire lifetime. 18 planets, 17 of them supporting Zephyrian cities and military bases, were vaporized instantly. 3 billion intelligent beings ceased to exist along with their culture, their history, and their technology. The Zephyrian collective, which had dominated this part of the galaxy for 50,000 years, was gone forever. The shockwave from the explosion would be detectable by instruments across half the galaxy. Every species with the ability to study astronomical events would know that someone had deliberately destroyed a star. The message would be clear. There was a new power in the galaxy, and that power had weapons beyond imagination. News of humanity's response to the New Haven massacre spread faster than the light from the supernova itself. Species that had viewed humans as primitive newcomers suddenly found themselves re-evaluating their assumptions about these strange mammals from the Sol system. The Corvan Empire, which had been planning to expand into human territory, immediately opened diplomatic channels with Earth. Their ambassador arrived bearing gifts and trade agreements, speaking in respectful tones about humanity's impressive defensive capabilities. The Stellar Federation sent envoys offering to share technology and establish mutual defense treaties. The Hegemony of Worlds requested permission to study human weapons technology in exchange for access to their vast library of galactic knowledge. Dr. Amanda Brooks was put in charge of establishing the New Haven Memorial Institute, dedicated to preserving the memory of the 12,000 colonists whose deaths had changed the galaxy. She interviewed the families of the victims, collecting their stories and ensuring that their names would never be forgotten. They died believing they were building a peaceful future among the stars, she told President Walsh during the Institute's dedication ceremony. Instead, their deaths launched humanity into becoming one of the galaxy's major military powers. Jake Morrison retired from active duty and moved to New Earth, a colony world where he could live quietly and try to forget the terrible things he had witnessed. He spent his days tending a garden dedicated to the children of New Haven, growing flowers and vegetables in soil that had never known war. Every evening he would look up at the night sky toward the constellation where Arcturus 7 used to shine. The new star created by the supernova was still visible, a reminder of humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction. President Walsh addressed the United Nations 1 month after the supernova, with reporters from across Earth and representatives from dozens of alien species in attendance. Today marks the beginning of a new era for humanity, she said. We have proven that we will not be victims. We will not allow our people to be murdered, without consequence. We seek peace and cooperation with all species, but we are prepared to defend ourselves with whatever force is necessary. She paused to look directly at the alien ambassadors in the audience. Let this serve as a message to every civilization among the stars. Humanity offers friendship to those who treat us with respect. But to those who would harm our people, who would treat human lives as disposable, know this. We are capable of more than you can imagine. We hope never to use such power again, but we will not hesitate if threatened. The galaxy had learned a new truth that would reshape interstellar politics for generations to come. Humans were no longer prey. They were the species that could delete stars, and everyone knew it. The age of humanity among the stars had truly begun, written in the light of a supernova that had once been humanity's enemy.